3 reasons, and there's a lot more than just 3 reasons. There could be many reasons, but we're going to talk about 3 common reasons that I see out there why a lot of agents struggle. We're going to go through some action steps and ways that you can prevent it or overcome some of those things, and then I've got a special announcement at the end. Before I dive in, I want to launch up a poll here. I like to make these as interactive as I possibly can and get some feedback from all of you. So let me see here. Let me go ahead and get this going. I'm going to close my one dialog box. The question is going to be, why do you think so many insurance agents fail? Launch poll. Here we go. So this should hopefully pop up on your screen. Let me know if you're not seeing it. But the question is, why do you think many new insurance agents fail or struggle? It's got 5 different questions on there. Lack of sales training, lack of resources, lack of knowledge or education, lack of toughness or persistence, or maybe too much golf. So you could answer more than one. So if you think it's all of them, it should be multiple options. But I want to get feedback from the audience here. Why do you think that so many insurance agents struggle? And the turnover rate, is, if you've been in the industry long, especially in certain segments like life and health, is really, really high. So just I want to get a feel of that. I was hoping there was going to be some too much golf. I see that. Awesome. That was one of my problems really in my career. So we've got 89% that have voted. So there's a few of you left that have not voted yet. So if you haven't, pop on there. I want to get your feedback, and then I will close the poll, and we'll talk about some of these things. All right. So it looks like I got a 3-way tie between lack of sales training, lack of knowledge and education, and lack of toughness and persistence. Oh wait, we had one final vote. Sales training and knowledge education were on the top, which kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Resources, only 11%, or too much golf, only 11%. So again, it looks like a combination, mainly knowledge, education, training, and a little bit of persistence. So let me close that poll, and we'll hop in again to the presentation here. I want to tell you a story. Everybody likes a good story about my new agent experience. So I spent, for those of you who don't know who I am and just hopped on this webinar, I've spent 15 years as a commercial lines agent, from the days I left college at 22 years old until just last year, I guess, when I stopped being an active agent and working on sales and marketing for insurance agents. And the first thing I've noticed, I think before I get into details of this, is I don't know if you guys noticed this and saw the first picture, but look at that thick head of hair, huh? And that hairline, that is something. If you go back to here, I hate to say it, but I've noticed a lot of a pullback in gray. So I don't know, just something to think about as I get older. In fact, my very first boss told me that I had to have some gray hair to succeed, so maybe that was part of the key. But my new agent experience, again, I started right out of college. So again, it's not about being a new agent isn't just about age. It could be when you start and your experience in the industry. But I did start right out of college, so not only was I new and didn't know much about insurance, hardly knew anything about insurance, but I looked young. And so it's a very difficult experience. And one of the stories I love to share is my very first sales appointment. I was, again, 22 years old, right out of college. I had about 3 months of kind of training off and on, some mentorship, went to a few classes, and I mean, it was great. I mean, as much as you can get out of 3 months, that's what I got out of it. But I was finally sent on my own out into the world to write some insurance business and go conquer the world in the insurance industry. And so I was driving, and it wasn't this exact business. This is actually a picture from a different business, but I couldn't find the one that I went to. But the same type of business. It was a sign and printing company. It was a print shop. Simple as could be, a print shop. I was 22. On the drive there, I was pumped, excited. You know, I'm going to go do that. When I pulled into the parking lot, I had just an absolute terror into my body because I was like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? How is this going to work? I walked into the office, very nice receptionist who kind of looked at me like, okay, what can I help you with? And I told him I was supposed to meet the owner, only to look down the hallway to see him looking at me, shaking his head in disgust of like, why am I wasting my time with this 10-year-old? And that was my first experience. Now, the best part of the story is the first question I asked. So you think I would have been very well prepared, even though I was young, and make sure I had the first few questions hammered out so I looked smarter than what I maybe appeared to be. And my very first question to this sign and printing company, let me say this again, a sign and printing company was, what do you guys do here? What do you guys do here? And he looked at me, and right away I'm like, this is going to be a tough one. And so I managed to muddle through 10 or 15 minutes of a you know, kind of a fakish conversation, knowing I had no opportunity because this guy thought I was a joke, to walk back into my car and just shake my head and like, just be like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. And so that's why this is so important, is because there's a lot of reasons, not just my story. I know there's people that relate to that. I've talked to industry people and association groups, just one-on-one, and I'm not the only person who looks back as a young agent and thought, that was really tough. So here's why this is so important and why I want to do a whole webinar on it, is that first of all, I really truly believe the insurance profession is a very highly noble profession. Unfortunately, the outside world doesn't look at it that way so often. It's you know, you're one of those people trying to sell me something, right? And also, the industry does need young and new talent. And like I said, new and young, you know, new could be anything. It's not just an age. But let's face it, that we're running into an issue in this industry, especially from the independent insurance agent side of things in particular, to where we've got a population of baby boomers who are going to be leaving soon, and there's not a lot of young people to take over for them and be successful. So it's a very important subject to talk about. And then accountability. I want to talk about accountability today, not just, we're talking about accountability from a training side, so whether you're an agency owner or you are a manager side, there's accountability on that side of things, and also just as important, if not more important, accountability from that young agent, from that new agent. You know, that they are accountable for what they're doing and not just using youth as an excuse, so to speak. It is certainly part of the equation, but not using it as an excuse. And then obviously the high turnover rate, it hurts the professional credibility. You've probably been to a situation or know of a situation to where you talk to a prospect or even a customer and they're like, well, yeah, you're probably going to be somebody different next year because I've had 4 different agents. They keep leaving. They keep cycling through. And it definitely hurts the professional credibility for all agents involved. It goes back to people from the outside looking at the insurance profession kind of as a, you know, just a turnover factory, and they just pump out people as they go. And then certainly if you are in the on the training side of things, if you're in the management side of the industry, you know very well firsthand that training and staffing costs are extremely high. It kills a business if you're having turnover and you've got to bring in new people, train them again, you know, get them acclimated to what they're doing, and then only to have them, you know, not succeed and then have to go through that process again. So that's why that's so important. And I'm gonna talk about just general things here. Again, I mentioned in the beginning, there could be 100 reasons why insurance agents will fail. So if you look at these 3 reasons and go, well, yeah, but what about this? You're probably right. These aren't the be-all, end-all, but I have found a common core around these issues that I think go a lot of different places. And my reason for putting this together comes from my own personal experience, and then I've had so many conversations, again, with independent agents. I've had conversations with agency management people, and hey, why is this happening? And you know, the big thing on here too, the last bullet point here is some of you have already put some stuff in the question box. I want your feedback. You know, we don't have to make this interactive, so to speak, from a voice standpoint. Unless you want to talk, I'll take you off mute if you got something to say. But I want you guys to give me some feedback of things you've run into, because I'm always out to learn from others on some of the reasons that they find out why some insurance agents are failing. So let's pop in to this core of the webinar of why do so many insurance agents fail, new insurance agents specifically. Number one is going to sound a little bit weird. Maybe you weren't expecting this, but I think it's unreal expectations. I think it's unreal expectations for younger agents. I had some of this myself, but I've seen this over and over, that a lot of agents, and again, I don't want to just pick on the younger ones because it's not about age, but if you are a millennial or in that demographic, which means right now you're about 18 to 34 years old, you have lived in a generation that is the see it, want it, have it generation. And I don't say that because to make you to be a bad person, or it's necessarily always a bad thing. But you know, think about it. If you want an app on your phone, you click it and it's there. If you know, it used to be if you want a book, you might have to go to the library or maybe the bookstore to buy it. Well, now if you have a Kindle or something like that, what? You look it up, you click the button, the entire book is in front of you. So it's just part of that model of a lot of the young people today. You know, is the fact that, hey, I want that now. And so I see that a lot in the insurance industry, is that people see things that maybe older or more veteran insurance agents have done and accomplished, and some of the things that they've got in result of that, only to think that they should have that in the first 6 months or year. All right, and it just doesn't work. Here's the wake-up call that I would say to any newer insurance agent, and if you're managing insurance agencies, that you really need to get that point across. And this isn't to be negative, but it's to be realistic, is that successful people, and if you've been successful, you know this, you work your tails off. Right? It takes 20 to 30 years of hard work generally to make what looks like an overnight success. And it doesn't mean you can't have success faster. I'm not opposed to people having a success in 2 or 3 years. That's great. You can go do it. But expectation-wise, to think that I'm going to achieve what a 30-year veteran insurance producer has, it's not realistic. And a lot of people think that. I know personally, My own story, this happened just on a personal level with my dad. I got into my 20s, and I got out of college, and I thought, well, my dad has a nice car, so should I. My dad's got a nice house, so should I. And my dad's had that, I should have that. And I'm thinking, and he came to me, he's like, bro, you know, you're the youngest of 4 kids. You should have been there 20, 30 years ago, what I had. That wasn't there. I worked really hard for that stuff. It takes a while. And that's got to be something in the focus for new agents. They understand that they've got to temper some of those expectations to a degree, and it's the thought process of, I need the car. I need the nice car because the agent that works in the office, he's got a BMW, so should I. I should have the really, really nice house because, Joe or Jill, the other insurance agent, she's got a really nice house. And then the one thing for me, I put that on one of my first questions was, I should be playing golf 100 days a year because I see other agents playing golf. Now, if an agent is playing golf 100 days a year, 2 things are happening. He or she has a really great team around them, right? And they've worked really hard to build a book of business, and they've got people that can help them. They got some stuff automated in systems, and they can do that. Or they're pretending, and they're not working real hard, and they're probably not going to make it. And I've seen both. I've seen it both up close and personal. So, and here's the point. There's nothing wrong with any of these things. I want you as a young agent to desire, if this is important to you, it may not be important to you, but if you want a nice car, go get it and earn it, right? If you want a nice house someday, go earn it and do it. If you want to play golf and set up that way, go do it. The opportunity is there. It's an industry that has residual income, that builds on itself, that builds on relationships. And so go do that. But what I see people fail is that within 6 months or a year, even 2 years, like, well, I'm not getting there as fast as I thought I would. And that's probably because you've had unreal expectations. And you must pay a price. You've got to sacrifice to win. You've got to put the time and the effort. And again, I'm not trying to pick on millennials or the younger generation because it happens across any demographic or any age group. But I do see too often that people just expect to get things without putting in their time and effort. And that's part of the unreal expectations. One of my favorite quotes is from Winston Churchill. And this is what I would tell somebody, all right, if you're a new agent. So how do you be successful? I'd say, well, you got to fail as many times as possible. That sounds kind of weird, right? You got to fail. But you have to be able to go from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. To go back to my first story, when I started, I had that first appointment that went awful, right? I can tell you of my next 20 to 40, 50 appointments, I had a lot more awful experiences where I was like, what am I doing? I don't get it. I don't know it. I screwed that up. And so I had many days where I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go get a job from somebody. They tell me exactly what to do, and I can be comfortable. I'm not going to make a lot of money, but so what? I don't have to deal with this because there's pressure, and I'm nervous, and I'm not succeeding like I want to. You've got to be able to understand you are going to go from failure to failure, but you can't lose your enthusiasm. You're going to get kicked in the teeth. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have bad days. You might even question your sanity, right, before you have some success. And this doesn't mean, again, that I don't want to set people up to go, oh my gosh, you just said we need to get more young insurance people in here. This is not quite the message we want to send. It doesn't mean the first few years have to be awful. But again, it's back to expectations. You got to read, you got to practice, you got to grow, and before you know it, you will find some success. And the analogy I always give with this, with the newer agents is you want to be. There's 2 ways you can be from a cooking world, right? There's more than 2, but I use the example of a microwave, right? The insurance business, a lot of people say it's a microwave. I just throw it in there, I push the button, 30 seconds, and I got some food, I'm done. That's all it takes, right? That's kind of the mentality that's been sold out there too now with some of the online stuff. It's quick, fast, you're done, you move on, right? There's a part that sort of works with that. But I want you to envision being a crock pot, right? I want you to put the right ingredients in, the seasoning, it's going to take time, right? And again, doesn't mean you can't have some success early. I want you to do that, but you've got to realize you've got to put in some of the training wheels. You've got to put in the communication skills and the understanding the insurance knowledge, all that kind of stuff before you can think you're going to have this big book of business. And it really comes from relationships and expertise, not a sales gimmick, all right? So I'll go through some. I've kind of stepped on my soapbox here for a while, but people say, okay, what do you do? Oh, unreal expectations. How do I overcome that? If I've got a young agent I'm working with, or I am a young agent and I'm struggling, what are some things that I can do? So I want to bring up some things I think can help any new agent when you get started with this kind of thing. Number 1, I would acknowledge my inexperience. All right, that sounds weird, but don't try to hide the elephant in the room. If you go back to my picture, and again, now maybe you're a 62-year-old new agent, but if you're a younger agent and you look young, you're not going to fool anybody by trying to use cool terms and grow a mustache. I think I tried both of those things. It didn't really work for me. The best thing that you can do is to acknowledge the fact that you're young and see if that's a deal breaker. One of my very best and favorite sales trainer of all time, his name is Jeff Delona. He passed away a few years ago. Love the guy. He was one of my favorite sales trainers. And his mantra over and over was, when you're dealing with a prospect in the sales process, when would you like to know? And if any of you have ever had Jeff, the answer always is, now is good. I want to know now. So if being young or inexperienced is a deal breaker, I want to know up front. You know, if someone's been with an agent for 20 years and they respect and like him, and I say, listen, I am newer in the industry, is that going to be a deal breaker? A lot of ways you can ask that question, but if they say, well, yeah, I'm not going to be very comfortable, then you can practice quote somewhere else. Don't waste your entire day or entire weeks trying to figure something out for an account that you can't change the way. You can't change time. It is what it is. So you just got to deal with it. So number one is acknowledge it. Number two is I would take it a step further. I would use my inexperience as a strength. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. But most likely if you're new, you've got a smaller book of business, so you're hungry. And you can really do anything or go the extra step, as all of us should, but to make your prospects and clients believe they really are your most important clients. Because guess what? At the beginning, they are. So you want to over-deliver and have a way to make them say, wow. And I can tell you back in my days of experience, a lot of things that I did was after acknowledging it was saying, if I didn't know the answer to a question, I would just be very open and say, listen, you know what, I don't know the answer to that question. However, I'm very excited about trying to help you, and here's why. And I would just utilize it. I'll talk about resources in the next slide. But oftentimes what I found out very quickly was that just because someone was older than me or more experienced than me than an agent that I'm competing against, it doesn't mean they were any good. It doesn't mean they didn't know their stuff. It means they may not be doing a very good job of keeping tabs and communicating and having a relationship with that person. So if they knew up front, whether I was 22 or 62, that they were going to be treated like the most important client and I was going to express that passion and excitement, they would see through that and go, listen, I wrote a lot of business just by being excited, just by sharing my passion and my why I wanted to help them. And they would see that and go, listen, I'm good with that. You'll give me more attention than the current guy does. I don't care how many years of experience he has. All right, number three, another way I guess I should say that you can utilize overcoming some of these expectations is use your available resources. So many people don't do this, and they feel like they have to know everything, and that's where they go out, and because you're a new agent, you try to fake it. You try to use big terms and things that simply don't add up, and people can see through that. So don't pretend. Just tell them, I don't know the answer to that. However, I work with an amazing team, and that could be company reps, underwriters, claims adjusters, other agents, managers, service reps, whoever it is that you're working with. Insurance can be and should be a team sport. You should use your team for support. If you're a smaller office, again, use company people. If you're a larger office, use some people. Doesn't mean you have them all day long, but you've got people to back you up. And I can guarantee you, if you said to someone, hey, listen, Mr. Prospect, I'm not 100% sure on the answer. I want to make sure I give you the correct information. Let me go back to my office, check on that, and I'll get back to you later today or first thing tomorrow. No one's going to say, well, you don't know the answer now, so I don't trust you. They'd much rather have you get the right answer than a quick answer that's not, that's not a fully comprehensive answer. So just think about that. Last thing I put here was Google. Sounds crazy, sounds weird, but I'm telling you, even being in the business after a long time, I got involved in professional liability, which had some complex stuff going on. I didn't know everything. I was learning things. I had oftentimes where I'd go to Google for a reference point to get some information. So obviously, the online world, you can get tons of information and just become a sponge. Learn as much as you can on that kind of stuff. So just be open to do the different things. So, excuse me. Those are the first reasons. Get unreal expectations, and hopefully, again, to go back through some of those, acknowledge that you're inexperienced. It's okay. Don't try to hide it and fake it, and use it as a strength. And then finally, use your available resources you have at your disposal. Okay, so that's number one, is overcoming this unreal expectations. Here's the second thing that I see all the time, and luckily, a majority of you in my very first poll answered this question, or answered this way. They see the problem with training and education. I agree. Amen. There's a huge problem in the insurance world with the lack of training and education. And actually, I'll say this, it comes from both sides, and I'll speak on that. But I'm telling you with all authority that I've had too many experiences with the young agent who's come to me and talked to me almost, kid you not, in tears and saying, listen, I'm not getting any help. Like, I don't even know what to do, and they expect this stuff from me. I don't know what to do. And here's what oftentimes young agents get. And this is not a joke, this is true. And again, every agency is different. Some do a better job than others, but here's your phone. Here's a desk. Here, maybe even still a phone book, believe it or not, and here's your computer. Maybe. Go do it. Go succeed. And after a few minutes, I realized that this young agent was giving very little tools. Maybe they got a lead sheet, right? Something like that. They've got no training, no mentorship. And of course they're going to fail. And the analogy I often use, I just said, could you imagine that I just picked out somebody who's never played golf in their life, and I say, hey, tell you what, friend, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go buy you a golf bag. I'm going to buy you some clubs. I'm going to buy you golf shoes. I'm going to buy you a golf glove. I'm going to buy you some tees and some balls. You're set. I got you your tools you need, right? And then I go out and I question why they can't break 100 on the golf course. I mean, it's very similar to getting an agent, spending time to give them what you think are tools, hardware, and stuff, and then wondering why they're not succeeding, okay? So that's one part of it. It's one part of it is that we've got to look at ways to give agents more education. Here's the flip side of it. If you're an agent and that's your only go-to, I would say the same thing off the other side of my mouth is that, listen, yes, you should have training provided by your agency of some sort or a company, but at the end of the day, guess what? It's up to you. At the end of the day, it's up to you, and I'm going to give you some things here that you can do to overcome that, okay? So I'm going to launch my second poll, and I'm just curious to get feedback. How are you personally, or how is your agency, how do they provide training? So I'm going to launch that. Again, you can answer more than one of these. Do you do in-house training? Is it insurance company provided? Is it industry association? Is it a mentor? Do you have somebody that can help you one-on-one, or maybe through books or podcasts or whatever? We'll talk about that. Or are you dealing with the school of hard knocks? Kind of what I just said. Here's a phone and a desk. Good luck. So I'm going to give you a few minutes. I'm going to take a drink while you do that. All right, got about 80% voted here. 90%. Wow, interesting. Okay. All right, 100% everybody's in. So I'm just looking at the numbers here. The top two at 50% each were a mentor. So right now someone's got a mentor. So I don't know specifically. There's a lot of different type of mentors. And the other part of it is school of hard knocks. So half the people here mean they are getting, basically what you're telling me is you're getting no training or provide no training, which is interesting. So the other part, we do have 30% said industry association classes, 20% said insurance company provided training. Very interesting, 0%. So not one person on this webinar either provides or is receiving in-house training. So their actual agency gives them training. Very interesting. I'm going to close that poll. Thank you for participating. Interesting. So it's not shocking, but interesting to say the least. So let me go on to training and education. Here's some of these you guys know, some of you maybe not. I'm just giving a brief overview of some of this. All right. So what do you do if where can you find some training education? Well, there's some big picture stuff that are easier to find, so to speak. First one, industry associations. I mean, it's part of the independent world. There's the big I, and then there's state associations, there's local associations. All kinds of different things you can be a part of. Formal programs. I myself personally attended National Alliance Insurance School. This was back in 2000. This was the very first time they ever did it. That was not a cheap date. My agency put a lot of money up for that. But there are some things. Also, I'm very blessed to live in a community. Their college actually has an insurance program. So you may not find these everywhere, or they may be too expensive, but there are formal programs available. Also, what I like to use a lot, which can be a better balance and some kind of co-branding things, is an insurance company partner training program. So obviously, you work with a certain insurance company. They want to get you trained to help sell products. They're going to give you some of that training through their company, which is a great way of doing it, usually on a cheaper budget. Now they're going to push you to sell their products, but hey, I don't blame them. And then finally, all the different designations. Your associations and how you can gain experience through some of these designations. I just mentioned a few. There's a lot more than these. I was a CIC. There's CPTU, AI, CRM. I mean, you don't have to know all these mean, but just start to think about these. And this is one of the key slides. I don't want anybody to tell me, hey, lack of training is what caused me to fail. Obviously, if your agency is doing nothing for an agent, they're going to have a more difficult time. But I've seen people who don't have much and take it the next step and still succeed because they're willing to go above and beyond and do some things to train themselves. So first of all, the easy thing is ask your boss, your colleague, or your network that you work with, hey, what are some training and education programs that I can be part of? what you did, and ask around. I mean, even with social media, you can go on a Facebook group page and say, hey, what kind of things have been most beneficial to you as an agent, or whatever your position is. Secondly, association, not just always to go through the classes. My biggest advantage or thing that's helped me in being part of associations is to network with people that are also doing the same thing I'm doing. To either give me advice or just talk about the industry or give me some referrals or ideas that I hadn't thought of before. And then obviously local and online training programs are available. And I mentioned designations that'll grow your skills, so check those out. The last thing I put on here was interesting. Half the people put they wanted a mentor. They use a mentor for training, so that's good. Mentors are very, very powerful, and I have a whole slide here talking about the different things that mentors can do. But I think to define a mentor, there's a lot of different ways to do that. And a mentor isn't necessarily, when you think of a mentor, oftentimes you think of like, the old wise sage, mentoring the young excited person, like Yoda and Luke Skywalker. Was that right? Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker. Whatever it is, right? You think of like the movie, there's always that wise sage that's helping the young guy to go out and succeed. That's part of it. But I would tell you, try to find a few different mentors from different walks of life. So maybe somebody's in the insurance industry, maybe not. Maybe someone that's just a good business person or just a good person can help you with life. Again, my story was, I was very fortunate. I had 2 or 3 people in my office that in their 40s and very successful. I didn't quote bother them every day, but I did. Were able to go out on a couple calls with them and ask some basic questions to help me through that. But here's the thing today, which is so exciting to me, and I use all the time, is that now you can contact people across the country. I mentioned some resources. There's a mastermind group out there that's really good. I'm thinking, I don't have it on a slide here, but email me after this and I can give you some of the direct resources that's really good with that. But to be able to network across the country now, think about books that you read. Forget about books are available everywhere, and you can learn so many things, not just about insurance, but it's about life and business. My first days as a new agent, it wasn't so much learning the insurance terms, it was understanding business and just people. And I remember seeing DBA on an insurance policy, and I was like, what is DBA? Is it like Downtown Business Association? Oh, doing business as. I see. I didn't know that. At 22, I had no clue. Maybe I was just a dumb 22-year-old, but that's the truth. Social media, blogs. I mean, you're obviously on this webinar, so you're hungry for some knowledge, but find successful people and learn from them, right, in different aspects. Find traits of a person or 2 or 3. People aren't great at everything, but find 1 or 2 things that can help you and learn from those people. And I would say, most importantly, everything that I can help you with today on this webinar is this. Take time for personal development. I didn't really know what personal development even meant 10 years ago. I mean, I'd heard of it, but it didn't ring my head. I didn't understand what that was. And the reality of it is that personal development is vital to both short-term and long-term success. So versus just saying, I'm going to become a better insurance agent, which is great, find out ways to become a better listener, a better speaker, a better communicator, a better thinker, or anything you desire to be. I mean, if you become a spouse, how to become a better spouse. If you become a dad or mom, how to be a better dad or mom, right? And there's so many things that the scope of life that if you work on yourself, and I have a quote here coming up that's going to reference that you can have an extreme amount of success. So again, reading books, podcasts, if you don't listen to podcasts, my business partner, I kept talking about podcasts. He didn't know what I was talking about, and then all of a sudden I introduced it to him, and he can't get enough because it's just like this wealth of information out there that's just sitting there on an audio form. You can listen when you're driving your car. I call my car Automobile University. They came from Zig Ziglar, but when I drive somewhere, I'm going to learn something when I'm going somewhere. Attend seminars. So find ways to work on yourself, and then pass on those skills, that confidence that you're going to get from personal development to your prospects and customers. And this is my favorite quote that goes along with that from Jim Rohn. If you haven't heard of Jim Rohn, check his stuff out. He passed away about 10 years ago, known as America's business philosopher, and his quote is so true. And I didn't get it till about 7, 8 years ago. You work hard on your job, you're going to make a living. Right? If you work hard just in insurance, I'm going to be an insurance agent, I'm going to be a great insurance agent. That's great, and you can make a really good living. But if you work hard on yourself, if you're always developing your skills beyond just being an insurance agent, but being a better person, you can make a fortune because you're going to have a skill set that nobody can take away from you, right? You've got so many things to bring to the table that other agents can't. Because believe me, there's more to life than just selling an insurance policy. And as you know, if you've been in the business longer than 2 seconds, it's about relationship. And you're able to build better relationships by working hard on yourself. So I'll leave it at that. Third thing, so I've been through the first two, unreal expectations and lack of training. This last one, again, a little more philosophical, and it could break down a lot of different things. But I think one of the main reasons why insurance agents fail in this industry, not just struggle, but fail, is that they're focused on the wrong thing. And I'm going to throw out some terms to you, and you just kind of think about it. I don't have a poll for this, but tell me if these terms sound familiar to you. Quotas, commissions, goals, premium amounts, accounts, bonuses, trips, incentives, right? Those are words I heard a lot in the insurance industry. And none of those words are inherently bad. There's nothing wrong with any of those. It's good to set goals. It's good to go on trips. It's good to have incentives. And I heard this a lot from not just people in the industry, but even some company people. We're going to do this, and it's all about goals and pre-incentives. And sometimes I would say, hey, are we missing one word? What are we talking about? I said, one word is being left out too often. I say to young agents, it's people. I already mentioned relationships. What about people? Have we ever, we forget about the fact that if we're just serving the almighty dollar, it falls short. Eventually that runs out. Whereas if we just serve people and help out people, that we can gain much more traction long term. But the reality of it is the money is the short-term excitement when you're new in this industry. And again, there's nothing wrong with money. It's great to make money. I think another one of Zig Ziglar's famous quotes is that money's not that important. It ranks right up there with oxygen, right? So it's very, very important. If you are in the insurance agent business, say this, just to make money, leave. And I'll say it again. If you are in the insurance business, simply, the only reason is I know the agents make really good money, you will not succeed. Now, maybe short term you'll have some success, right? Because you're out there just because you're focused, I'm going to get some money, and you can do that. But over time, prospects and customers are going to get it. They're going to see right through you. They will know that you don't care about them, that you only care about you. And here are 3 truths of this business. Insurance is a people business, number 1. It is a relationship business, number 2. It is a service business, number 3. Those all go together. All right, you've got to understand those principles. Because here's the reality. If you focus on money, if you just focus on money, you will lose the people. If you focus on people, you will gain money. And here's the thing. I mean, this opportunity is so cool if you're a younger, newer insurance agent, because you can make a great, great income. There is no doubt about that. Great agents do and should make a terrific living. They work hard. They help many people. They help businesses. But the great ones that I've talked to, when I've sat and talked to people that are making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, not even as an owner, but as an agent. I mean, it's crazy. Making really good money. The thing that I hear over and over and over again is, some of you even go, I don't really even get too into the insurance side of stuff. I know it. I just like people. I just like to help people. And I've heard this over and over again. Doesn't mean they don't set financial goals. Doesn't mean they don't want to like make incentives or go on trips. They know those only come by helping people. And again, this is another Zig Ziglar quote. If you can tell I'm a fan of Zig. I don't know if this is even his originally, but he gets the most of the credit for it. But it's so true. And you've probably heard this before. You can have everything in life that you want if you just help enough people get whatever they want. And so focus on that. If you get anything out of today's webinar, understand that just try to find a way to help people, and serve them well. And the best part about that is that everybody wins. Why do insurance agents fail? Well, unrealistic expectations, number 1. It's back to wanting, thinking that the car and the money is all going to come on day 1 without understanding some of the things they're going to have to do to put the work in. Number 2 is lack of training, and that was a big thing that people brought up, lack of training. And here's the reality of lack of training is that you as an agent, even if your agency is maybe falling short of what they should and could do to help you, you still are accountable for you. And you can overcome some of those things by putting the time and the effort and the work to do it. But there's some strategies to do that I mentioned on here. And then finally, focus on the wrong thing. And it's all about serving people. So you can email me too at brent@bizgriz.com if you just have general questions on anything. I'm here to help. I really am. Go to our bizgriz.com webpage. You'll see the blog. I'll be writing new articles about probably every couple days with insurance resources that are going to help you. And yeah, so cool. We're at 45 minutes. Again, I still got a good group. I appreciate you so much for being on here today. I know it took a lot of your time. I'm hoping you got great value out of it. I'd love to get your feedback. Let me know. If anything, just email me and tell me what you thought of it. I'm always trying to make these webinars better. I will be coming out with a new webinar pretty much every week moving forward. I love to do these. So I wish all of you the best. Have a great weekend. And again, any question on anything, I'd love to help you, and we will be in touch. All right, thanks a lot, guys.